Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining this session on safety and sovereignty and addressing gender-based realities. Please feel free to write a hello in the chat just to get to know you more. Please share your name and where you're joining us from. And in line with that, we do have a poll running. Please do provide some details on what brought you here today, as well as the area where you're joining from. We'll love to hear from you. So I'd like to introduce myself. For those who do not know me, I am Pelire Piri, and I'm one of the facilitators for the Community of Women in Water, which is one of the 8 women's networks within the Stronger Together Coalition. This is an important coalition that aims to unite like-minded networks and organizations, such as the ones that you are coming from, with the ultimate goal of empowering women professionals working on challenges related to water resources, water sanitation and hygiene systems, with a vision to ensure that we create change makers and leaders not only globally but also regionally as well as locally. So Stronger Together is pleased to be able to hold this session thanks to the Hilton Foundation, and which is part of our broader series on meaningful participation. So in the chat, ladies, you will see a link to learn more. That includes signing up for our interest form for women in the sector. We'd love to hear more from you on upcoming events and new resources. So please do sign up today. And now, ladies, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for this session, who is no other than Kathryn Pharr. So Kathryn Pharr is the founder and executive director of the Community of Women in Water, which is a global network of more than 1,800 professionals advancing solutions across water resources and WASH. So Kathryn's experience does span through water policy, financing, governance, and gender inclusion. She also does bring a cross-sector perspective grounded in both science and implementation. So before I call on Kathryn, I just want to remind you all that we have, if you have a question or think of one as the conversation evolves, please put your question in the chat and start with #Q, so our IT team will know that that's a question for the speaker and help to make sure that it gets answered. Yeah, I hope that's fine. Yeah, so Kathryn, over to you.
Thanks,
And
Valerie.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I can see from the poll results that are being shared that most people are here today to learn it from diverse perspectives and lived experiences on addressing gender-based realities for women attending conferences, and that's really exciting. So my role in this session is to just provide a bit of background on what we'll be covering to allow the panelists to really dive into their lived experiences and their regional perspectives. And I just want to welcome, it looks like most of our audience for this session is from Africa and Europe. So just wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming. We're really excited. Okay, great. So really happy to do the introduction for this session today on safety and sovereignty, addressing gender-based realities. What do you need to know? So you can't be at your best if you don't feel safe. And safe actually is a lot of different things. It's feeling physically safe, it's feeling psychologically safe, and it's feeling like it's okay to say no. We spoke a little bit in the last webinar on physical safety and planning for travel to conferences, especially international travel. So I just want to go over a couple of those tips very quickly. So we have safety during the international travel portion. If you're traveling internationally or whatever it is, travel to the event, travel between the conference venue and your accommodation, at the conference and at your accommodation, right? So 4 major areas that we look at when we think about physical safety. So the very first thing, especially for young professionals, right? we always think about how we can save money, how we can make this work. Saving money isn't going to save your life. Okay. Um, do not compromise your safety in order to save some money. You can travel if groups if needed. We've talked about the fact that for the conference in December, we're trying to connect women. We're actually trying to connect women also before the African Symposium in Kigali. We're going to do another event to connect women before World Water Week. So you can try to find people who are also going to the conference. Maybe you can even share accommodation. I know that women have done that before as a way to save money, but again, not compromise on safety. Write your key contacts down on paper. Not everything's safe to phone. If your phone's stolen, if your phone battery dies and you need to contact someone, you need to have the number. Very few of us have memorized phone numbers anymore in our head. Keep your devices charged. Be sure you have mobile data, reliable Wi-Fi. It's about being able to contact someone if you need to, and trust your gut. If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Don't try to convince yourself that you need to do something that you don't feel comfortable with. The other thing that's really important, particularly at a really big international conference, is the fact that we have lots of different cultures coming together, and that means that's a lot of chances to learn from each other, but also a lot of potentials for miscommunication. So there are 3 different cultural buckets that the speakers for the sessions today and the organizers talked about in the last couple of weeks. So we've talked about our personal cultural and expectations as a participant, the culture of the conference host, but also the cultures of other participants. So we've got these 3 different buckets looking into that. And there are a range of feelings you may experience when you're meeting with all of these cultures, right? You could be really relieved and excited to be trying new things and learning new things and different ways of doing things, like new ways to greet people. You may have a strong sense of homelessness, stress, confusion, anxiety, isolation, a lack of certainty about what is expected of you, even from how to greet people, from when to speak, depending, right? So maybe you're going to a new kind of conference and you're not sure what the unwritten rules are or how to speak. And you might be frustrated that others don't seem to understand what you mean. I've moved abroad a couple of times. I've lived in other cultures, and I find that this one is really true. You feel like you're being very clear, and you are in your language, but maybe not for people from other cultures or in the host culture. So it's good to keep all of that in mind. And now we're going to sort of move on to that psychological safety portion of this. Have you ever felt uncomfortable in a professional situation, but not known what to do? And maybe you've thought to yourself, I can't point to anything she or he did wrong. It'll sound silly if I tell someone. This is going to make me sound difficult if I talk about it. I'm going to be labeled as a difficult person to work with. But your discomfort could come from a range of issues. It could just come from trying something new. We all get a bit of discomfort for trying something new. It could just be a cultural mismatch, right? And these are okay. But it could also come from you not being respected. It could come from being bullied or intimidated, either mentally or physically. And it could be coming from being harassed or assaulted, right? A range of ways that those can happen. So it is important to recognize that we shouldn't just dismiss our comfort. We should at least take a minute to figure out where that discomfort is coming from and what could be causing it. You often have the power, not always, but often have the power to stop these kinds of things before they start when it comes to being disrespected or feeling bullied or intimidated. And the biggest thing the research shows is actually holding your boundaries. So this is, I found a really interesting example when I was preparing this presentation was that, in the situation of male predators trying to look for kind of women that they can form relationships where they can take advantage of them, the first thing that they check in the first couple of minutes of talking to a woman is how quickly she will put herself at discomfort to not raise a problem. And so the person again, in this situation, this man might step it closer and closer into her personal bubble to see that she is physically uncomfortable. She'll send a sign, but won't say anything. And they usually walk away from women who are like, I'm sorry, I need you to take a step back. Now, that's a very Western example, and I want to highlight that that's a very Western example. I'm aware of that, but people are always looking to see if you will hold your boundaries, if you will be consistent. And that can be really helpful. So hold your boundaries, tell someone that you trust early on. The longer you end up in a cycle of intimidation, the harder it can be to admit that that's where you are. And you can stop being one-on-one with the person if that's needed. That's particularly true in work situations. You can usually find ways to not be in a one-on-one situation with them. If you are someone like me, who constantly wishes when these kinds of things happen that they were a character in a book, because I feel like the author always gives the character a really great line to say, and I never can think of one. Wanted to talk about examples of what you can do. So you can make a joke that clarifies that it's not okay to cross a boundary. You can send clear body language that signals that you're not impressed, you're not okay with something. I know we sometimes talk about silence as agreement, but that's not always true. You can send quite a lot, especially in person, a lot of signs that like, I'm not gonna say anything right now, but we all know you're out of line. You can pull the person aside one-to-one later and explain that they have crossed a line and you expect them to stop. I have actually done this in multiple different situations, and this has worked really well for me. And you can say things like, that's not funny, right? And you can walk away. So the range of examples that we'll hear more from the panelists, but just wanted to offer some of those up today. This is our heavy slide. If you are harassed, if you are sexually assaulted, sexually harassed or raped, we wanted to make sure we covered this. Understand what your reporting options are. Get access to a range of supports, medical, legal, psychological, and social. Preserve evidence where it's appropriate. Prioritize well-being and recovery. So talk to people who can support you, get counseling, and take time off. And recognize that especially number 4 is not something that is done in the first week or the first month. This is a long recovery process. This is weeks, months, and for some people it's years. And that's okay. And you want to maintain you prioritizing your well-being and recovery. One of the positive things that's come out of the last decade is that it's become very common for conferences and other events to have codes of conduct and to require that all participants abide by these codes of conduct before they can participate in the event. So know it before you need it. Okay, know before you travel what the code of conduct is for the event that you're going to, what it says to do if you're safe or uncomfortable, or if you witness something, so that you'll be prepared to support yourself and others should anything happen. I think it's also interesting to think about like what counts within the code of conduct, but often if you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, that's enough. You can talk to someone. And even if you think it might be a cultural mismatch, you can still go and say, look, this made me uncomfortable. Because especially if you're not from the same background as the host organization, the host country, they may not know to think about your situation. So you could be helping future people, even if all you felt was slightly uncomfortable. The UN events do have a code of conduct. So since we're talking about the conference that's happening at the end of this year, I just wanted to share some of their details. And you can see I've copied bits of the code of conduct saying it applies to everyone and for all of the systems. Okay, so I just want to leave you with a final note before our panelists take the floor, and it's that you are worthy. You are worthy of being respected. You are worthy of feeling safe. And you will be at your best when you do these things. So thank you. And I will pass it back to Paliri.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thank you for sharing those important tips and also sharing, your experience on how to ensure that we maintain our, safety during travel as well as when we're navigating these different environments. I think what stood out for me was, your tips on us having the power to stop it before it starts. And also, you spoke about how important it is to hold our boundaries and how it is important to, remind oneself that you are worthy, you're worthy of safety. But I would also like to know and get to know what really stood out for our listeners. So please do feel free to share what stood out for you in Kathryn's presentation. And also maybe if you have any personal experiences that you'd like to bring, please do share in the chat. Thank you so much, Kathryn, once again for sharing your experience and the presentation that you made. We'll now transition to have our first panelist. Okay, so ladies, I would like to now introduce you to our first panelist, Eunice Nshenda. Eunice, you are welcome. It's great to have you representing the African Women Sanitation Professionals Network.
Thank you so much,
Eunice,
Paliri.
would you please tell us a bit more about yourself? Talk a bit, we'd like to learn from you about recognizing and trusting psychological and emotional safety cues, which was, I know Kathryn did touch down a little on that. She did touch on that. So I'd like to know from you, Eunice, from your experience, how, one can recognize and trust psychological and emotional safety cues. And also specifically, many women do experience moments during travel or conferences where something it feels off or uncomfortable. So how can one learn to, trust those instincts and also recognize when a situation may not be safe, may feel off, even if nothing obviously happens? So I'd like to learn from you, Eunice, on that. Please just introduce us, and then you can just speak on the questions that have been raised. Over to you, Eunice.
Okay, thank you so much, Paliri. It's such an honor to be here. So as you stated earlier, I'm from the African Women Sanitation Professionals Network, the Zambian chapter. And so we're basically helping women in this sector with the resources that they need to be able to thrive in this sector, offering capacity building opportunities, as well as mentorship for the upcoming younger ladies. We did notice, like in our country and on this part of the world, there's sort of an apathy by women to be in this sector. So our network bridges that gap to just provide the resources that women may need to thrive in this sector. And so I'm privileged to serve also as a treasurer in this network, which has been so fulfilling. And so to answer your question, Feliwe, indeed, as you have said, many women have experienced situations where something simply feels off. And there may be no obvious reason, but something just feels off, a gut feeling. You feel unsettled. And one of the most lessons I learned, or I have learned in the times when I have traveled to these conferences, is not to write it off. My uneasiness could be picking up subtle cues, or something happening that maybe my conscious mind may have not processed yet. So I think noticing these cues also starts by paying attention to how you feel. Do you suddenly feel anxious, pressured, isolated, or uncomfortable? Is someone ignoring your boundaries, asking overlaying personal questions, insisting on being alone with you, or making you feel obligated to do something that you may not necessarily do? So these are signs for me that the situation deserves caution. And I also noticed that as women, we were often socialized to be polite, accommodating, sometimes at the expense of our own safety or our own comforts. But however, safety should always take priority over politeness. And if a situation feels wrong for me, I think it's always okay to leave. It's okay to decline an invitation, and it's okay to end the conversation or seek support from someone you trust. And so you do not wait to prove. You do not need to wait for proof that something is wrong. As long as you can sense an uncomfortable gut feeling, it's okay to put an end to it. And I believe that also preparations helps us trust our instincts more. So before attending a conference or traveling, you know your accommodation arrangements, you share your itinerary with close family members, close colleagues, and even maybe new conference attendees that you may meet. Like Kathryn said, you make sure that your emergency contacts are accessible. You write them down somewhere on a piece of paper in your purse. And so when you are prepared, you are well able to distinguish whether you're just being anxious or your concern is actually valid, because then you would have done all your homework. And so if something is off, you'll be able to notice it very quickly. And so maybe the last thing that I would say about this is that it's also just very important that you build a community with other women in these conferences. Also earlier emphasized by Kathryn, I think I found it to be very safe. If I can be with a colleague, we're moving around in a conversation, I'm with another colleague, I think that has always made me feel safer than probably to just be alone with people whose intentions I might not truly know. So I think that's what I may say about that. And finally, I think psychological and emotional safety is just as important as physical safety. It's very important that we pay attention to the subtle feelings that we may feel. That would be my response to that, Valerie.
Wow, so much to unpack, but thank you so much for those insights, Eunice. And I like how you've concluded with saying psychological and emotional safety is just as important as physical safety, right? So thank you so much, Eunice. In the interest of time, we will now transition to our other panelists, and I'd like to introduce you ladies to our second panelist for this session, Tabeer Riaz. Tabeer, welcome. We're so happy to have you here from South Asia Young Women in Water Network. Could you please let us know a bit more about yourself and talk about navigating cross-cultural expectations and power dynamics, right? As we attend these international conferences, it can be exciting, but also challenging at the same time, because we're trying to navigate different cultures, expectations, as well as power dynamics. So from your experience, Tabeer, how can women stay confident, protect their boundaries, but also still remain true to themselves while building professional relationships in unfamiliar environments? So, Tabeer, I'll hand over to you for your introduction and also just respond to the question that I've posed. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me here for this important conversation because these international conferences can be incredibly valuable spaces for learning. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. So this is Tabeer, and I'm representing South Asia Young Women in Water Network, part of Stronger Together. And I'm originally from Pakistan, but currently I'm based in Sweden. So this organization, this network works at the intersection of advocacy and the community building, networking, and also research. So jumping from my brief introduction, I would like to bring perspective from some South Asian side, like how we navigate these places when we come and attend these sort of conferences. So I think in our region and that we grew up learning to be very aware of how we move in these professional and public spaces. We are taught, to be respectful, to be careful and mindful of these social expectations. And these awarenesses are almost always helpful. They protect us, and sometimes it can also make us to hesitate to be not to speak, and maybe sometimes we just avoid to set boundaries, and we just are so afraid to say no that we don't want to seem rude or difficult or maybe ungrateful in such sort of a setting. So and when we are attending these sort of international conferences, it becomes even more complex. We are navigating a new country with new cultural norms and different communication styles. And sometimes people who are more senior or influential in our field for young women, especially those from countries like South Asia, like we have some hierarchy, we have some respect for seniority. So power dynamics can be, we can feel it very strongly. I mean, you can feel pressure to accept invitations from your seniors. You just feel to continue conversations, and you just tolerate that discomfort because someone is senior, well connected, or maybe offering some sort of opportunity. So from my experience, one of the most important thing is to enter these spaces, I mean, with very much clarity about our own values and boundaries, because under this power dynamics, we cannot just let our safety just vanish. So we have to be professional, and we have to have this courage to jump out of the conversation if it is not feeling comfortable. And even if we are having these sort of conversations with someone senior in our field, we can always like step back very respectfully. And so we just need to prepare a bit just to have some sort of confidence in order to, I mean, we need confidence to say no sometimes, because we are just like thinking of maybe agreeing to their conversations, or maybe just trying to stay in that room where we are feeling uncomfortable. So we have to prepare a bit ourselves that we can take a step back from these sort of conversations and these sort of situations, instead of putting ourselves under pressure and any sort of social expectation around us. And secondly, cross-cultural communications does require openness, because we are meeting a lot of people from different cultures. I mean, they have different ways for inviting you, different ways to socialize, different ways of networking. But all we can do is like we can respect them, but our consent and dignities, I mean, it should be our top priority, and we cannot let it go just for the respect of culture. Of course, we do respect cultures. We are not going to do something against that culture, but we have to set and very clear about our own boundaries and what is the extent that we can go, and we can respectfully, I think, navigate those cultural kind of things. And I hope that the people who are attending these sort of conversations and conferences, they are enough respectful of these cultural differences that we encounter. And like as Kathryn was going through the presentation, so there are like very simple phrases that we should practice ourselves to use, like thank you, I'm going to head back now, or I would like to prefer this conversation maybe in more group setting or something. So we always need to practice these things so that we can make them in use. And another thing, like it has already been mentioned, that we should also kind of create our small circles of support during the conferences. I mean, community is always important, and wherever you are, if you have a small community to take care of you and you can be part of such a community, it is for your own, I mean, safety. So we always connect with the other women who are part of that conference, the women we know, the women we trust, and maybe we can be part of them easily, so that we stay in touch with those colleagues. And maybe if we a little know someone, so maybe we can share our schedule with them, and maybe we can check in with these peers, these colleagues, whenever we are going into some informal events. So it's always good to have someone with you and who is who has an idea of your whereabouts. So I think it's finally, it's just like staying true to yourself does not mean we are rejecting any other culture. It just means we are participating with confidence while remaining grounded in our own values, because that is also very important. So it can just like we can just like leave the room, decline an invitation. Maybe we should have the courage to report such a concern, or simply trusting your instincts. I mean, we are, as women, we are very much privileged that our instincts are way stronger than men, our counterparts. So we should always listen to them in these sort of situations as well. So that's what I want to say, that we should respect. I mean, power dynamics is there, but we should respect our seniors, but it's not like based on their seniority. We just like say yes to everything that they are saying, and we should learn the skill and the techniques to navigate this cross-cultural conversations and communications. And we should always like set a clear boundaries for ourselves, and we should not always like let go of our own values just to respect these sort of situations. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tabeer, for sharing those insights, as well as your personal experience on how to navigate cross-sectional expectations, as well as navigating power dynamics, and in you did emphasize on an important point of the power of community as well as the power of trusting oneself, trusting the quite woman intuition. I think we're all gifted with that. So it's very important that you did emphasize on that. Thank you so much once again. And now, Eunice, let's go back to another topic from the presentation about responding to uncomfortable, inappropriate, or unsafe situations. So when faced with inappropriate behavior, intimidation, or uncomfortable situations at conferences or networking events, what in your view are some of the practical strategies that women can use to set these boundaries as well as protect themselves while still seeking support confidently? I'd like to hear from you. Eunice, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Valeria, for that question. I think firstly, what I remind myself of is that setting boundaries is both appropriate and professional. If someone's behavior makes me uncomfortable, it's okay to be direct and clear. Simple statements like Kathryn said, like, I'd like to keep this conversation professional, or I'm uncomfortable with that, can communicate a boundary without being confrontational. And I think, especially because you don't want to be enemies with your male counterparts, you still want to coexist, but in a way that's regulated. So I think just being firm and setting that boundary, people get it when you set that boundary. And so secondly, to trust yourself and remove yourself from a situation if necessary. So you don't owe anyone your time per se, your attention or continued engagement if you feel unsafe or uncomfortable. You can excuse yourself, you can join another group, you can contact another colleague, as been mentioned, or you can return to a public setting. And so I think that you really have to practice that. You have to look out for yourself. And then thirdly, I think also just using networks. Like I said earlier, for me, I think I've always felt safer to be in a company maybe of one other female colleague, just in a situation where maybe I'm interacting with people that I may not be very, very familiar with. And also, as stated by Kathryn, most of these conferences now have codes of conduct and actually have like good, maybe like reporting systems if you actually feel unsafe. So also you could take advantage of those opportunities. And then I think lastly, as women, we belong to these professional spaces, so we should be able to participate, learn, and network without fear or discomfort. And setting boundaries, trusting our instincts, and supporting one another are powerful ways to create a safer and more inclusive environment. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Eunice, for those insights. Tabeer, I'll now I'd like to ask you, your experience on, let's talk about how prioritizing physical safety during international travel and conferences. So when we're traveling for conferences, often that means, navigating unfamiliar places, right, and meeting new people, as well as, attending some social events outside formal sessions, right? Like cocktails, dinners. So from your experience, Tabeer, what practical steps can women take to stay physically safe, but also still feel secure during conferences? Yeah. So over to you.
Thank you so much. So when it comes to physical safety during these sort of international travel and conferences, preparation is very, very important because along with trusting yourself that you can handle it, you are confident, you are used to these sort of setting, but still like you are moving to a new country, or I mean, most of the times it's like a sort of a new experience for you. So like, as we know, generally women are very thoughtful about their safety overall, even though they are sitting in their like office spaces or somewhere, but they are like always very much thoughtful about their safety. So but there we have so many things to take care of, like the transport and the new location, the hotel, the venue. Arranging safe transport from the airport and maybe to the hotel to the conference setting. So we just need to be like prepared to have like all sort of emergency contacts of that new place in our phone. That's a very, I haven't practiced this, but I think this is a very first step that we need to do this, that we have at least some emergency contacts saved in our phone. and so that we can just like quickly go to them. And also like we just need to share, we should have some colleagues there to share our details with them, but still I think it's good to share your like details, your accommodation details with your family back, because I had this incident when I went for a conference. So my dad from Pakistan helped me to find the hotel because he had all the details. I had no internet, and I very hardly, I mean, very difficult to contact the hotel myself. So I just contacted or dropped him a message on WhatsApp, and he arranged everything sitting in Pakistan, so that he had all the information about my transport and about my hotel and everything. So that is very useful. Of course, we are surrounded by the people who are supportive in those conferences, but at least someone in your family should know the details a bit, so they can also help you sitting very, very far away, but still it's very much helpful. And maybe it's like, as we have been mentioning and emphasizing on this, that we should always try to avoid any unnecessary isolation, especially in unfamiliar places. Sometimes, I mean, if we take example of any conference, sometimes there are like hotels or maybe some coffee shops just right around the conference place, so we can comfortably go there and sit with someone. But we all of a sudden we just plan and go like 1 hour away from the conference hall, so that doesn't sound good. I mean, we should always be mindful of these sort of settings. If we are agreeing to something, so it should be like it does make some sense, okay, that we are just going to sit down in the front a coffee shop and have a discussion, so it does make some sense. But it doesn't make sense that they all of a sudden plan to go to maybe a nearby beach to have a discussion. So I think we should always be mindful of that, where we are going to meet someone. And what like I mean, also like it also again happened with me from my personal experience, that we should be very mindful of our own personal information. If conference in some other place and we are traveling from our hotel, so it's not always a good idea to share your like information of the hotel. I mean, if it is not necessary, if you're just living side by side, so that everyone knows. Otherwise, there is no need to like mention anything about your hotel. I mean, how exact travel plans or whether you are alone. So, I mean, some things that we can avoid. So it's better to, I mean, not to share excessive information with anyone. And I think again, the last point would be again, I mean, we should have some like sort of community or some people around us. And also it becomes, I mean, very hard to check on each other. I mean, we just go into so many formalities that what if I message my colleague, how would she feel? So I think we should need to little bit normalize that we can check on each other casually. Though we are in a professional conference, but still we can casually check on each other. So that is very much helpful, and that builds the confidence that if we are in some sort of situation, so we can just drop a message and we have this sort of comfortable situation. And as we have mentioned that there is always a code of conduct and everything. So we also need to know like who are the relevant people in that conference setting. So we have to report to them. So that information sometimes go missing. I mean, we know that there are arrangements, but sometimes we just need to have their ready to use contact numbers in our phone or maybe in our diary, so that we can contact them on the spot, and if we just need in a bad situation. So just like to be mindful and be prepared for every bad situation. And I hope that none of that happened to any one of us, but still it's better to be prepared and to have these things ready by yourself. And you should always be like mindful 100%, even before stepping into any sort of conversation, whether it's a group conversation or whether it's one-to-one. So it's always better to be prepared. So yeah, thank you so much. I think that covers a bit of this.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Tabeer.
Welcome our two panelists. It's a great pleasure to introduce both of you, and then we'll have a few questions for you both to answer. Dr. Leticia Ackun, welcome. It's great to have you here representing the AfWaSA. This is the network of women water and sanitation professionals. And Dr. Leticia is co-founder of the African Women in WASH Awards, an initiative aimed at recognizing hardworking women in the sector. for over 25 years. Through her work with institutions such as AfWaSA, UNICEF, and national agencies, she has influenced policy, built capacity, and expanded women's representation in the sector. And a big welcome to engineer Hind. She represents the Arab Women Network for Water and Sanitation and is a highly experienced water and environmental engineer with over 20 years in integrated water resources management, wastewater treatment, and sustainable water sector development. She's skilled in project implementation, institutional reform, and capacity building across multi-stakeholder water initiatives. So again, welcome to you both. And we'll start with the first of 4 questions, and we have a combined 5 minutes for your responses. So 2 or 3 minutes each for your responses. So our first question, there's a lot of juggle when attending an international conference. So how can women navigate the range of cultures coming together that were mentioned in the presentation? So their own culture, the organizer's culture, and other participants' cultures.
Thank you. I guess this is to me.
Yeah, either of you can start.
All right. Yeah. So for me, I think this topic is very relevant to us as women, especially from Africa, because I realize that most of the time we don't seem to get a lot of opportunities for these conferences. And then when we get opportunity, it is more like you are excited to go. But then we seem to forget that it is a foreign place with a foreign culture, and there's so many things to navigate. And so my experience with this has been, just as Kathryn has highlighted, the need to understand the culture in which you are going to. How friendly are they? How open are they? What are some of the things that they may accept or may not accept, so that you do not also err on the side of the fact that you do not know much about the culture. Yeah, so, and also what I have gained particularly is, first of all, identifying people within the sector that will be attending such a program, because it's good to familiarize yourself with what you know, and then you can go to the other side to find new people. So I normally will find out from colleagues in the sector who are likely to go to the conference, so that I know some allies that I'll be going out there. And secondly, I'm also looking at the accommodation. Sometimes, as Kathryn said, we are looking at saving money, and then we may go for a low-cost accommodation, maybe an Airbnb. At the end of the day, I know colleagues who had to move out quickly because of security issues, because some of these hotels do not have any security preparations for you. So it's very important. And also to make sure that our contacts are there. Example, having some contact on paper. I had the experience of going for the GEOPA conference. I got there only to realize that my phone was off, and then I had to call the hotel for them to pick me. And it was a big hassle before I could get someone who knew someone in the hotel to use their phone to call. So these little things are very important for us to take note of. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that experience. Any thoughts, Hind?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Leticia, for the I would say that definitely women are sharing the same concern in that regard. So I would totally agree that women should also evaluate their participation, the place they are going to. As Leticia said, that you should going to a foreigner place, you have to understand exactly what is the place, what is your limitation. I would definitely, what I usually do is that I read about the cultural aspect of the area I'm going to, try to evaluate where is the areas that are safe to be attended, what should I be doing in that regard, and all of these aspects. So women should seek their security first, and they should really look into that. Hotel as well, accommodation, all of these safety measures are also now available huge online, so they can also read reviews, recommendation from different aspects in that regard. So yeah.
For sure.
And I'll also add that as much as possible, you should go in for hotels that are being recommended by the organizers. Normally, they will give you a list of hotels that you could choose from. As much as possible, try and review such hotels to attend for your security, because they would have done the underground check to be sure that they are safe places. Thank you. Then they shouldn't be too far from the venue. Sometimes transporting in and out can also put you at risk. Yeah, thank you.
Good point there. Yeah, I think we could talk a lot more about that first question, but let's move on to the second one. So the presentation, as we've mentioned, referenced physical safety. Any other experiences on staying safe physically that you'd like to share? Maybe let's start with Hind this time.
Yeah, I would. This is very interesting, I would say, and I face it personally. I had an experience in that regard. Physical safety is very important, but also understanding the what is in front of you. It is usually women have the impression that they might be under danger by default. You know, this is something I faced myself, and I was like I was in a situation that I couldn't even move. I was like from cultural background, I was in a place that not used to my scarf, the Muslim scarf, the way I'm wearing my hair scarf, and they were just talking in a very loud way, and I feel that there is like I have to protect myself at that stage, and I was really shivering in that regard. So like then suddenly a policeman came and he was asking if there is anything, and suddenly I understood that they were trying to offer me support because I'm carrying a huge luggage, but the language barrier was really limited. So I was shivering at that point, but it was misunderstanding, misconception of the language. And I feel that nowadays with the AI, with all these applications available that we could use also to translate our messages or receive the messages from the other side, will make our life way easier. So a good intention sometimes is translated in a bad intention, and the other way around. Sometimes someone is just trying to sugarcoat their languages to just drag you into some inappropriate conversation. And this is what I always try to also to focus on. So physical also safety is not always it's not always physical. It's also mentality. Have to understand and how to translate messages that you are receiving from the other side.
For sure. Yeah. Anything to add, Leticia?
Yes, yeah, of course. Sometimes also the mere fact that you are a woman, you came alone, and especially if you didn't come with colleagues and you seem to be a bit lonely, just your appearance to the conference by yourself, people start reading into things that, oh, this is a loner and maybe she needs company. So being a woman, a man can go free with that, but the moment you're a woman, then you become like almost like a target. Okay, this lady might be lonely. Maybe I cannot, because I had an experience when just the day of registration, getting our badges, I was in the queue. Others were chatting with others. I didn't know anyone, so I was just in the queue minding my business. And then someone approaches me, says hi, and oh, I just came, and I see you alone. Oh, I'm this person, and I also responded. And then I don't know whether he thought I was vulnerable or I don't know. So he just said, oh, I have a vehicle. If in case you want a car to go to town, I can assist you. And he sounded very nice, but at the end of the day, it didn't turn out so good. So it tells you that even when people are nice, you should also guard against they taking other advantage because they see you as vulnerable and then also as being alone. Yeah, so when you make friends, be free because you are there to also network, but you should also be on your guard. And the person kept on saying there's no free lunch. So that I should have picked. The person said there's no free lunch at the first meeting. And then he said, oh, they are not providing us with lunch. So I have a place here. Because he came a week earlier, I can show you to the place. And we went, I was ready to pay. And then he said he will pay. Immediately he said he will pay. I felt uncomfortable because I said, oh, no free lunch, but he's going to pay. And of course, when we closed and when we're done, he has a car to pick us. And he was taking me to his hotel. Can you imagine? And I said, no. So I said, no, please. If it's it's not the lunch. It's just that I think you'll be bored. So just to keep you, I said, no, I don't go to people's hotel just like that. So, I mean, we should be also careful with offering of goodies because sometimes behind it might be other intentions. Thank you.
More good points from both of you. Thanks so much. So we know that there can also be actions or situations that cause women to be uncomfortable or intimidated mentally, as we have been referring to. And the causes of these situations can be very broad. Could you share some of the causes that you've seen and how women could handle these situations based on different causes of different situations? Feel free to go ahead, whichever has an idea first.
Maybe you can start.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always these kind of the causes are always different in from cultural point of view, I would say. We always, as empowering women in this sector, our sector is also very a sector that is men dominant. So we need to understand this by default. We need to be ready to face any kind of discussion. We need to I always say that empowering ourselves before empowering the people around us. We need to be really strong that we believe we are capable. We believe we are we can judge things in a proper way. We can deal with situation when it's really difficult for us to look at it. So different causes usually comes from understanding where we are, understanding ourselves. Also mental and emotional. Some women are dragged easily for emotional. I've been also in different situation where also it's not always from like empowering ourselves in front of the other gender in front of men, but also in front of women. You could also face this kind of in the current situation. We face this kind of discussion, this kind of argument with other women from different background. I would say from my background, I'm coming from an Arab region, developing countries, Muslim countries. I always hate the discussion that I have to explain why I'm dressing like this. It's kind of difficult to always justify why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that. And always giving a full lecture that I'm only wearing this in front of some groups of men, not in front of everyone. It's not at how do you wear this at home? How do you feel? Is it hot? Is it bad? So it's not always, I would say, in a kind of also this kind of causes in a sexual perspective, or even undermining perspective, but also cultural wise. And this is what I'm trying also to teach the women I'm working with, that if they go, they should go with a full perspective from where they are coming from. They should also have the right answer to the right questions. They don't feel that they have to answer it. They don't have to answer it, because we are not forced to answer each and every question that is toward us. I could end the discussion at the point where I see I'm being drawn in some discussion that I don't want to be part of, So I think we have to be prepared mentally, and we should know the measures, how to act in such a situation. And I think all organization now, all governmental sector, when they send women into conferences, when we go even into a single meeting, there is always kind of standard procedure or kind of security RM or this emergency response line that we can call. And I like even now this with the signal, we had a signal, woman could also ask for help or cut down a discussion immediately. So I think the causes are different views of different background, different cultural point of view. I would say also religious point of view, because sometimes different religions are tagged with different also approaches that people might hesitant to talk to them. And I shake hand. I would say I shake hand with everyone, women, men, I don't mind. But it's always like kind of, yeah, when I face a man, he always put his hand like this, and I feel like I'm judged, I am judged in advance, So I always try to change this. It is not a mandatory. It is up to me to shake hand or not to shake hands. So different aspect, I would say we have to be prepared, strong, understanding our culture and defend our culture in a proper way. Thank you.
Yeah, and to add to that, another thing about situations that women face beyond the physical, that makes us uncomfortable is when sometimes we don't seem to be given even the space to also contribute, even at the conference. And sometimes one of I remember I complained, and then some of the men were saying, "Oh, when we give you the chance, you don't talk. You always want to be at the background, and then when you talk too much." I said, "So now you are saying we don't talk and we talk too much." And sometimes the women will feel intimidated even to raise their hand because they seem not to have the support. And I had this experience when I were preparing for the Dakar World Water Forum, the 9th World Water Forum, where I went through the agenda during the preparatory meeting, and I realized nothing on gender had been shared. It was part of the theme, the main theme, and I raised an issue. It was just shrugged to the background. No one even commented on that, and I felt so bad. And I told myself, then let it be. I'm not going to even push any further. But then I realized after the meeting, I needed an ally. So I went to see some of the organizers and then did one-on-one with them to lobby. And then they saw sense in what I was saying, because all they said was, "We are mainstreaming gender and everything. Don't come and talk about women every time you want." And I felt shut on the foot. But like later, when I had to confront them one-on-one, they came down. And then later, it became one of the the 8th theme that was also added. So I think sometimes they may make us uncomfortable, but we should also persevere. And also, another thing I would say is when we are going, we should go prepared with some facts and figures so that we can also use that to present our case, so that it doesn't look like we feel that we are not contributing to the conference, because sometimes that's the impression that we get, that women's presence are there just to color but not to add to the content. Thank you.
Wow, I'm still processing all that you have shared, both of you. Yeah, so much to think about there. So thank you. And yeah, keep any questions coming in the chat. We have one more prepared question that we have touched on. So what are the signals that conference organizers could do and promote to help convince women that they're welcomed and to help them be able to meaningful participate in the conference?
I think sometimes just phrases are women now, especially we are looking towards having more women participation is even one sentence that makes you confident that, oh, this conference has women at heart. And then even when they put, we have this score where you assess even people that you put on your panel, ensuring that there's gender balance. So with this, you also get the confidence that this conference is really targeting women and is interested in issues about women. And then when you go through their program and you realize that they are addressing issues on gender, it's also heartwarming. And even when you realize they are looking at the little things about your safety, your accommodation, transportation, and other logistics that are very pertinent to women. And it makes you feel very, very welcome and comfortable that this conference, and also they leave out contacts of people that in emergencies you can reach out to. That makes you also feel confident that this conference is really for me, and I'm welcomed, and I can really participate fully. Because as we said, if your safety is not guaranteed, even you cannot give your best even at the conference. Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, if I can add to that also, the location of the conferences usually I would like it's very important that when you look to the location of the conference, so the location itself sometimes give you a signal that it is all safety measures have been taken in consideration. Like if I want now to go in, I would say in my country, if I would go to if I would go to a conference and I know the location is not safe, the location is very rural area that internet connection is not really good there, transportation are not good there. So this is for me a very good signal. Whenever I want to attend a conference, usually I check first the location. Where is the location in the city I'm going to, and how close it is to transportation? How also what kind of hotels are around this location? So all these for me also as a signal that the organizer considered everyone's safety, and I would feel safe in that regard.
Yeah, true. There is a lot of prep work involved, isn't there? I think it gets easier the more conferences um, we attend. So yeah, just a reminder that we're unable to take live questions, but we can take them in the chat. And I'd like to thank you both because this has been a fantastic discussion. And I'm curious, we just have a few more minutes here. Yeah, I'm just finding our questions here. So I think our speakers can also see a question in the chat. Question for Leticia about the sector being quite male dominated. How much of the burden falls on women to prepare, adapt, and prove themselves? Sumbul's question is, what responsibility, and I think we could open this up to both of you. What responsibility do you think institutions, senior leaders, and attendees have to actually change that dynamic?
Ooh, it's a very hard question. Yeah, I would love to hear Leticia.
Yeah, so institutions, senior leaders, and attendees. How I think for now, what we are doing is we are also looking at male allies and also male champions in gender, to also for them to appreciate, I don't know whether I'm answering your question, appreciate what women have to deal with when they have to attend conferences, and then contributions that they could make to also ensure that women feel as part of the, for example, if you could even be going with a team from your office, but I realize when you go, the guys are likely to be together because they will go out together, and you could even be lost in the midst of even having gone out with your team. So I think it's good that we let them understand that not that we are vulnerable, but there are some issues that they should also they appreciate concerning they not being women, but then how what women go through, so that it is more of conscientizing people and bringing it to their attention, so that it's not like we can all go to this hotel, but consider if we all go to this hotel, we the men can even stroll leisurely and walk to the place and we'll feel safe. What about the women on our team? Will they feel safe? So they should also consider all these things when they're taking decisions in choosing accommodation. Because I remember there was a time our colleagues chose the venue, the accommodation for our conference when they had not discussed with me. I went there and I found it a bit detached, and most of the time they will go before me or I will leave before them, and I was not feeling safe. But my question was, did they even think that because they can use that accommodation, will it be right for Leticia also being a woman, if she has to be on her own? Because sometimes I have sessions that might go late into the night. So I had to ask that I be brought on the venue of the conference, because I was presenting, and sometimes I went beyond 5 p.m. when my colleagues would have left. So I think for organizers and other people, we should also let them understand the state in which women are. I remember a lot of the workshops were for gender were put at the very late hour, some of them 6. And I had to also call the attention of some of the organizers that, I mean, you treat the gender issue as if it is a stepchild, so it can go anywhere. But you should remember it is women. And then our safety should also be ensured when we are planning these things. So that's what I would say of the 2 experiences that I've had. I don't know whether I've answered you, but that's what I can remember. Thank you. And if you have
If I may add, if I may add, Eunice, also, I would say that what is the responsibility of senior leaders and the institution, they should also have a very clear role for the women attending these conferences. The women should not only go in the shadow of their male team leaders or colleagues. They are representing a woman just for the logistic, preparing the presentation. Then the man would stand in front of the crowd and he present his work. I think as a woman, I never accepted that I go as a shadow. I always has to have a very clear role. Why I'm attending this conference, why I'm doing this meeting. If I don't have a very clear role and a very like a role that will also present me as a woman in the water sector, I will not take that opportunity. It's not a trip. It's not a tourist trip. Either you go with a very clear responsibility or don't take it, because the day where you will be going as a leader, it will come, but you have to do it from the beginning, otherwise it does not work.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we're almost running out of time for questions, but we do have, we're going to try to do 2 more really quick questions, and we'll limit our responses to just 30 seconds each. I'm going to read the 2 questions, and then we'll have one of you answer each. Delo asked, one of the challenges I have had is finding someone to sit with for meals. So any ideas on how to handle that? And question for Michelle, how do you know when you should report something or just let it go? So yeah, let's start with someone to sit with for meals. And if one of you can do that in 30 seconds, please go.
Yeah, I think people that I would like to sit with for meals are people who might have done some presentation, share the experience, and then it is something that I'm also looking forward to learning more from. And I realize the conferences are so packed, you can only have such times, quality times to really discuss things. And I remember there was one time we had a meeting with Kathryn and others, and during lunch, a lot of the times, it was the time that we could even plan and launch out and initiate things. So you look out for people that you think they can help in your journey and something they are doing that you are interested to also learn from, and then you use that opportunity to sit with such people. So every line should be targeting somebody that you think could, because networking is difficult. People get busy and then after the conference, they have to go and prepare for another session. So they might not get time, but for lunchtime, they may have time to chat with you. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We want to really take advantage of lunch times for networking and to have company and to chat. Okay, so Hind, the last question again. Any thoughts on how do you know when you should report something or just let it go, please? And we'll try to have another brief answer. Thanks.
I would say it's totally depends on how familiar I am with the place I am in. I won't report anything if I don't feel that I am very well connected to the authority. If I feel that my reporting will add pressure on me, I will just try to find a way to escape and not report it, because if I report it and I don't trust the authority there, then for me this is a failure situation. So I'll keep it myself. I will deal with it myself.
Well, thank you so much to both of our panelists. What a fantastic discussion with so much experience and so many good ideas. So thank you both.